Hey everyone, how's it going? Norm Schriever here with John Coleman for the TN Mortgage Podcast, number 31. John?
Yes, stop right now. It's catching up with my age, Norm, at this point. So, yeah, great to have everyone here, and hopefully there'll be some value that we'll give today, as always.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a great topic today that a lot of people are searching and interested in, and that is the Help to Buy scheme there in Ireland. So, if you want to do a quick little 10,000 foot view introduction of it?
Well, this is a video, or this is information that I had put out before, where it was initially only 20,000 that the government would give. So that video is outdated at this point. So I felt it was time you and I brought it back up to date. But it's I think it's a great scheme. Um, but we'll discuss the pros and cons
Yeah.
as we go. There are some things that I think people need to know from an overall view that we would probably tease out as the conversation moves forward.
Great, great. Well, I have a list of questions if it's okay with you, and I'll go down the
But I
list just
think
because.
actually, sorry for coming across you, buddy. I think it might be worth giving a sort of a rather than going into specific questions. Maybe I'll start by answering: is it a good thing to Help to Buy scheme,
Yeah,
right? And maybe
yeah.
kind of give that sense of it, right? Because this is the way I would describe this to anyone I talk to about it in individual basis. The Help to Buy scheme is great to help people with the deposit. Okay, so if you don't have any money or you don't have access to a gift, the Help to Buy scheme is amazing. But and this is the point I need to make, I always make, and I say it don't feel as if you don't need the Help to Buy, it doesn't mean you're losing 30,000 euro by not buying a new property. Okay. The way I explain this to people is that the money, the Help to Buy money, it's in the price of the property. Okay. So hypothetically, you buy a property today, brand new, and you get your 30,000. Okay.
Mhm.
You try to sell that house the next day, you're only getting 470,000 first because the house next door to it, which is new, has the 30,000. So it's built into the price. Now, over
Yeah,
time, it's you'll get the value of it over time, and it means you're not having to put your own money into it. So there's
yeah.
huge value. But the concept of, oh, if I don't buy a new property, I don't get this 30,000 is slightly misaligned in my opinion.
It's
But I
not free money that they're giving out to someone just
not
to get
free
in
money,
line, right?
but
Yeah, you pay for it somehow.
but it's great to help people with the deposit and not having to
Yeah.
say, well, where the hell am I going to come up with 30,000? And in a slight way, back, back when the crash took place in 2008, 2000, there were banks at the point were lending 100% mortgages back in the day, right?
Hmm.
And in a strange way, this is money that allows, like the moment the central bank rules are 90%, this is the kind of a way around that, if that makes any sense, to slightly
Mm.
make it that you're able to borrow more money. In effect, you're not borrowing more money, but it is in the price, and it's all you're doing is getting back what you paid for in tax.
Yeah, and the big thing, like you said, is the deposit, and that's the big number. A lot of people could afford the payments, a lot of people could afford the house. They just that deposit is a huge number to come up with, so that
Oh,
definitely helps, right?
and on that basis, though, I think the Help to Buy has been amazing and it's been really, really successful. But there are people who use the Help to Buy who don't need it, right? And
Yeah,
they have, which I think there's figures out there that 70% of the people who buy new houses wouldn't have actually needed. There's quite a high percentage. So there's all sort of kind of political debate around the rights and wrongs, or are there are there better ways of helping first time buyers? But in the main, I think it's worked, and I think it's helped a lot of people. So I wouldn't be changing it. What's happened over time, and I'm kind of talking on a general, the limits that is 500,000 is the maximum price, and 30,000 is the maximum money that you can get. But that 500,000 as a ceiling of price is probably from 3 or 4 years ago. Now the prices have gone up,
yeah,
so
yeah.
the value of the scheme or the benefit of the scheme isn't it's been and no one really I've never heard anyone make this point, but it's been kind of um reduced with the passing of time, right?
Yeah,
Because
it gets watered down a little bit as
it is getting watered
500,000
down.
used to be a higher end home, and now it's sort of right in the middle, huh?
Are there not for people in Dublin are basically suddenly they can't, there's no houses for 500,000 in Dublin, so they're
Yeah,
having to go outside
yeah,
Dublin. So it's not a point I've ever heard anyone make, but for me, I've noticed it in terms of, well, this 500,000 limit. Um, so there's always a kind of, in Ireland we have a budget every year, and there's always a, oh, will they extend the Help to Buy, and it is extended for another to the end of next year, and I'm sure it'll be extended again. But at some point, the question is always, will they keep it or won't they? Won't keep it. But I haven't heard anyone lobbying to try to get the actual the value of the
yeah,
price range increased, which personally I think it should be to maintain the value of the offering that was
yeah.
made. 500,000 in Dublin would have bought you a very nice house in Dublin 4 or 5 years ago. Now you can't get a new house for that price in Dublin, or very, very few, and you're having to move outside Dublin, you know?
That's a good point you make with them not actually adjusting even yearly. And you've heard of FHA loans, Federal Housing Administration loans in the US, right? Or
Yeah,
maybe not.
yeah.
And it's not, they don't lend money. They're a government organization that insures other lenders. And so it's a safe bet for lenders. And so it's a great loan for first-time buyers, but they actually update it every year. They have different income, different price or lending thresholds, I should say, and it varies by county. So for instance, if you're in the middle of Arkansas, prices might be 200,000. In the middle of California, it might be 800,000 for the same. So it's actually appropriate for where you live
It's
and the prices
interesting
as
you said that.
well.
If you remember our last conversation on the first home scheme, that's
Yep.
slightly graded on a location by location basis. It's up to 475 in Dublin, but other areas it's 425. So there is a but
Yeah.
that's for the first home scheme. But I think there's value in what you've said about attributing that to the Help to Buy scheme as well, because, well, in real terms, the value of it as an offering has dwindled with the passing
Yeah.
of time, you know.
And so we covered up, what it is, which is basically, help with the down
Well, yeah,
payment and stuff.
I'll go in more into more detail. I kind of just gave you a
Okay.
very much a sort of an overview there, and did I feel it was worth it? Basically, just to kind of get into the nuts and bolts of what the Help to Buy scheme. Um it's a refund of the taxes that you have paid in the 4 previous years. So we're in 2025 now. So it's the tax that you paid in 24, 23, 22, and 21. Okay. So it's done on a combined basis. If you're doing it on as a joint application, you need to apply jointly. You don't apply separately, you apply jointly. And the maximum is 30,000 as things stand. And that, what we were just talking about, the maximum price is 500,000, and it has to be for a new property only. So that's the sort of the nuts and bolts of what the Help to Buy is. It's a refund of the tax that you paid. So for hypothetically, you've just come into the country, right? And you want to buy a new property. Well, there's no value in that from there's still value in buying a new property because you're not having to get into bidding wars with people. But for the getting the Help to Buy
There's
funds,
no taxes to refund,
there's
right? You
no
haven't paid.
taxes
Yeah.
to refund. So
Yeah.
people need to be aware of that. And a mistake people sometimes make is, right, we're we're in July now. Um, we are in July, aren't we? So I have to
I
think of
think so. I don't know what year it is, but I know it's
it.
July.
Right. And people will be saying, well, I paid, okay, they might have come into the country last year and they paid full year's tax, and then they paid 6 months tax this year. This year doesn't count because it's not this year.
Yeah.
But what I would say to, if I'll be having conversations with people now, and I'll be saying to them, okay, you're buying a new property, and new properties can take 6 months to 9 months to be built. Okay. So you actually could still potentially increase the amount you qualify for the Help to Buy, because it will be next year. So then you'll have all the tax that you paid this year. So that is a little nuance for people to keep in their mind. Okay, I only qualify for 15 now, but there's always a time lag
Yeah.
between when you actually agree to buy a house and what time I'm ready. So if it moves into next year, then suddenly you've got another year's tax and to pay for. But there's a counter argument on that. Obviously, you'll get more Help to Buy, but then you'll have spent more money in rent, you know. So it works both ways. But at least you're getting some hard cash rather than, because
Yeah.
you still have to pay your mortgage. So there is value in the fact that you will qualify for more if you move into a new tax period, basically, you know.
So, and that's a good point because I have a question about that, about timing. So, like, when do you apply for this Help to Buy scheme, and how does someone apply?
Right. Well, it's through the revenue. Okay. Everyone will have their own revenue account. And when I send out our roadmap, we'll always include a link to the Help to Buy. Um, I, I'm of a view that people should apply as soon as they're thinking of buying a house, right?
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
because people always say to me, "Oh yeah, no, I've definitely paid 30,000 in tax, right?" And I said, "Well, listen, you may think that the revenue are God in this process, right? So you need to talk to them first, because I've had people come back to me and say, "Oh, I actually owe the revenue money, right?" And they won't, like, they have control here. If for some reason you underpaid some tax on some for some reason, you'll have to square that off before they'll tell
Yeah.
you what you qualify for. So I think, and obviously people always put it off because they're not ready to buy a house. But then when they're ready and then suddenly they want to buy a house and they haven't applied for this, if the revenue have logs or too many people looking for the Help to Buy at the same time, you could be waiting 3 or 4 weeks to hear back from them, right? So I would say as soon as you start thinking about you're going to buy a home, and in particular if you want to buy a new, just apply, and then, well, there's no pressure on it. It'll go through the system, and then you'll have that figure. One, it'll either A, confirm what you believe you should get, or B, it'll crystallize where you actually are and what you might need to do at a given point in time. Um, because if you think about it, there's always a big rush come January, right?
Yeah.
People, okay, well, we want to buy a new home. We're into a new tax year, and then suddenly they're applying, and then they're waiting for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So get it approved as quickly as possible, so you know where you stand. Or if you're thinking of doing it next year, apply the 1st of January, so you're getting yourself to the top of the queue, you know.
That's great. Yeah. And I know a lot of people when they start to, they have questions like, how is Help to Buy scheme calculated, and how do they claim the Help to Buy, and like how do they qualify and all these things. So do you actually assist in the process since you're maybe doing their mortgage, or is you just
No,
point them
it's
in the right
I
direction?
point them in the right direction, Norm. It
Yeah.
is and sometimes I kind of feel like I have a duty of care to sort of ground them in their expectations, because yeah, no, I'll definitely qualify for 30,000. I'm kind of go, okay, well, I've had many people say that to me, and they come back and say I only qualify for X, and it's just, it's really, really important. Revenue don't bite, and they're very, very good. So apply. It's quite a simple process. And there is a
Mhm.
link that we always send out, so anyone can always just get in touch, and we'll send them in the right direction. But it is based on the tax they paid in the 4 previous years. So,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you
But
need to
you're
be in.
involved before the process, then they apply, and you're in conversations with them. And as
Exactly.
soon as the
Yeah.
revenue gets back, you say, okay, let's look at what you got, huh?
And then plan accordingly, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you start? Okay, you say you qualified for 25,000 this year. Well, I'd be saying to you, well, listen, you could still buy a house now that's not going to be ready till next year, because you're going to have made up the difference in the tax that you paid this year. So there is some fine tuning, but getting in touch with revenue, finding out where you stand right now is key in the process. You know.
And out of all your clients who are buying, how many or what percentage do you think actually want the Help to Buy scheme when they first walk in the door, and how many
Oh,
actually use it and actually get the money, and it's of service and they get approved?
gee, great question. There's obviously, from a first time buyer, the concept out there of free money in a way is out there. The concept
Yeah.
of 30,000 free money. So that's a very appealing concept. So you certainly have a very high percentage of first time buyers will be of the view that they should be using the Help to Buy scheme. Not 100%, but certainly a high percentage. But then remember what we were discussing earlier, some of the, like, buying a house and then using, and it's your first choice. Your first thought is, well, where do I want to live? Okay. And so the locations where you might want to live, there may not be any new houses being built, or they may not be available. So it might dismiss it as an alternative. Or as I was saying as well, the value of the Help to Buy has diminished recently in that the house
Yeah.
prices have been going up, but the limit to which you can use the Help to Buy hasn't increased at all. So
So you're saying if it's 500,000 and €1, they can't use Help to Buy.
correct. Yeah,
So do a lot
500,000.
of if people are in that range, if you were a seller, I know this is all right, new homes, it's not sellers, but do they actually purposely price a lot of them if it's anywhere near, they price them at 500,000 or less just because they know it's going to be a boon
Absolutely.
for people?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. But when supply and demand
Yeah.
create a situation whereby, well, people will pay more than 500,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, the developer isn't in it for the first time buyer. He's in it for his own
And there's
business,
no
for his
shortage of
own reasons.
buyers. There's, I mean, triple the
No,
demand versus the supply these
yeah.
days. So yeah, yeah,
So in real terms, with the way the prices have gone,
yeah.
that the point you make, or the observation you make about being, so a house might really only be worth 450, but we could price it at 500 because people will think they're getting the 30,000. That may well have been a thought process in the developers maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but now the
Yeah.
demand is versus supply has, obviously the prices have increased. I don't believe they're having to, if
No,
if
no,
they
no.
if the supply and demand, that they're just pricing it at 520, 530, and the Help to Buy
Yeah.
doesn't become
They're not
isn't a
worried about it.
consideration.
Yeah, yeah. They don't
They're
they
not
don't
worried about it.
benefit it from it and they don't need more traffic. They have enough. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Um, yeah, that's interesting. And other than owing the revenue, some back taxes, or like you said, it's a someone who just emigrated to Ireland and they don't have a tax history that 4 years. Are there some
By the
mistakes
way,
or some things?
just to make a comment there, you don't need to have been working in Ireland for 4 years. So it's not as if to qualify. It's
But
based
you
on,
won't have that tax credit
yeah,
for years
unless
you
you've been
didn't work.
earning a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of money. So
yeah,
some people who are earning a lot of money will have paid tax quicker, will get the 30,000 in a quicker time frame. But yeah, it's not a case of you have to be here for 4 years, but they
yeah.
will only calculate on the tax that you paid in the last 4 years, basically, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you for clarifying. And like, I was just wondering if there's some common mistakes. One common misconception that you said was like people think that it's free money. Buyers have that misconception, but are there other mistakes with application, waiting too long, or something people do wrong?
What commonly making the assumption that they qualify for the full 30,000, right?
Yeah,
That for me, that's the biggest mistake. It's more okay. So, yeah, well, I've been paying lots of tax and I'll definitely qualify for the 30,000, and I'll apply for this when I need to apply. Right now, it takes 5 minutes to apply, so it's not an onerous task. But listen, like, we're all human beings. If I don't need to do it now, I won't do it now. My is off, and then suddenly they do it, and then, oh my God, taxman is saying I owe them a couple of $100 or euros. Sorry, your influence had me saying bucks there. No,
yeah. Hey, I'm on
yeah,
euros now too. I'm in
yeah,
Spain
that's
now,
true.
believe it.
That's
And
right.
I'm right now I'm organizing and filing my first taxes. It is not fun. So yeah.
Uh, the what was it? Sorry, yeah, you're through. I got through myself there. But in real terms, the that would, and then just not applying quickly enough, right?
Yeah.
And some of the banks are very, and this is where it becomes a red tape issue or a problem for them, with an application, in that they don't have enough savings, right? They haven't got their approval from the Help to Buy, but they want to buy a house tomorrow, right? And the banker saying, well, where's the money coming from? And you can't actually demonstrate where the money comes from. So it, it, it can become a real problem for people, whereby they're trying to buy a house, they can't get the bank to say yes, and they're waiting on revenue, who at the time they're applying maybe have an inundated with applications. So there's no, now revenue are good. If you've agreed to buy a house, you can, there is a way of actually potentially fast tracking your way up the system if you've agreed to buy a house. And this is a mistake people sometimes make. The process is as follows with revenue. You apply, and they give you an amount and an access code. Okay, they don't
Hmm.
ever give you the money. Okay, the individual never gets the money. So you get a code and an access code, right? And that basically would be what would be supplied to the bank. And the bank will go, okay, yeah, they're good for 30,000. Okay, you then find a home, and this is how the process works. When you find a home, the bank would then give you a loan offer, which you would, in conjunction with your solicitor, update you would give the revenue, the loan offer with the access code, etc.
With the
And
code, yep.
that would then go to the developer, the code, the loan offer and would go to the revenue. And it's only at that point that the revenue will pay the developer. You never get the money. It just goes directly from the revenue. So people kind of think, well, how do I get my money? Right. So that concept is the Help to Buy. You don't get the money. You get you get told by the revenue how much they will give. And basically the funds then go directly from the revenue to the seller.
And that's probably a good thing because a lot of people would be like, "Oh, let me go to the casino and double it," or "Let me pay off these credit
Well,
cards or take a vacation or something," right?
well,
So
I'm not convinced about that, but that's the process that
yeah.
it operates, and it works very well. But the human beings say, well, this is my money. Why am I getting it? And they just see a code and an amount. They think they haven't got it. And you have got it. You now need to find a home,
Yeah,
basically.
gotcha. Yeah. And when someone comes to you, I know you help a lot of first-time buyers and home buyers, and they come to you, and part of what you do is customize a really great roadmap with based on their very specific situation, every step they need along the way to get this mortgage. Of course, this Help to Buy scheme and pointing them in the right direction is part of that process, correct?
Absolutely. There's a link that we send out with the roadmap that just brings you directly to your own
Yeah,
to the revenue, and
yeah,
then you apply that way. Um, Obviously, we'd love to be able to do it, but revenue wouldn't talk to us on their
yeah.
behalf. That's something they would only talk to the individual themselves on. So
Great.
we're not qualified to give tax revenue advice either, by the way, and we wouldn't be allowed under our license, but we definitely can point people in the right direction.
Great. Yeah, well, you answered a lot of questions and really covered well the Help to Buy scheme. And if people have more questions, we'll actually put a link in this YouTube description or on social media where they could find the Revenues website. And then any other mortgage related questions, they could come right to you, John. So thank you for the
Fantastic.
info.
Not a problem. This is well overdue because I had done one along on Help to Buy ages ago, and we definitely needed to update it. So thank you for making this suggestion, and hopefully we've covered everything today. I feel we have.
Wonderful. Yeah. And hey, everyone out there, thanks so much for your support with the T and Mortgage podcast. We have fun with it, but some really great information. John helps a lot of people. So if you're in Ireland, if you're looking to buy and need a mortgage, John Coleman at JC Mortgages. And thanks again for your support with the T and Mortgage podcast.
Thanks all. Thanks for those kind words, Mo.